Good morning, everybody. So welcome to day 87 of compassionate response to COVID-19 with my body. So I've begun a new. I think this is what series are we on now? I think this is like series 10. So the last series was called Meet the Order. So I was interviewing order members about their lives and history of Tree Ratmana and FWO and all that, and morning Dhamma Bandha. And then I seem to have started on an ideas phase, really. I don't know what I'll call this series, but anyway, yeah, so it's series 10. Yeah, I suppose I've got quite a theoretical kind of orientation. I often kind of just get interested in patterns of things and patterns in the universe, and trying to understand how things work. And so today's topic, you might think, what's this got to do with Buddhism? So Kondratiev waves are waves of economic activity that a Russian economist called Kondratiev spotted in the 1920s, but I think what's interesting for me in all this is often you have a way in which things just kind of make progress and go from A to B to C, that sort of thing, gradual process, and then other times in nature, it seems like things are cyclical. So, like the seasons, for instance, and in Buddhist cosmology, you get which probably derives from Hindu cosmology and the Brahminical cosmology. You get a sense of evolution of the universe, and then involution, which is a kind of almost like a spiritual decaying of the universe, and then an evolution and decay. So, I just thought that it's interesting to look at ideas like that, and also, you got the idea of like revolution, and Marx, his idea of revolution, and I think often necessity is the mother of invention. So it's like things come out of, when we start struggling, it's like we're motivated to try and innovate out of that, or to solve the problem. So in these economic cycles, you've got various inventions. So you've got the steam engine, and you've got the railways, and you've got chemical engineering, chemistry, you've got automobiles, and then you've got information technology, and then you've got the next one's supposed to be psychosocial and health, and I suppose in a way like environmental stuff, kind of clean energy and that sort of thing. So I think it's just interesting to explore how this all fits in with, say, for instance, the Buddhist teaching on conditionality. That things arise independent on conditions and then cease when those conditions cease. And whether or not any of this is deterministic, is kind of whether we have control over it or not, or we're just subject to it, and how kind of our human agency fits in with all of that. When we seem to have cycles of things. So I suppose in a way we have this cycle of the seasons, and we don't have any control over that. So we don't have agency over that. But I suppose we have there's a way of coping with each season, of living with each season, and I suppose Buddhism is saying, whatever life presents us with, we need to deal with it creatively and say, for instance, if it's the winter time, to not just let ourselves get depressed or something like that. So anyway, yeah. So I suppose the topic is like, how do we cope with change, and what's the gratification, danger, and escape of change? When things go well, we get comfortable and we take things for granted and all that sort of stuff. And then they start to fall apart, we get recessions and depressions, economic depressions and that sort of thing. And then, so yeah, I think it's a kind of interesting topic, and it's very relevant for, we have to live, we have to eat, we have to have an economic life. So looking at that with some sort of clarity, I think is probably helpful. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to begin with some body work. So if you want to stand up, take a few deeper breaths, and then let's just do some drumming on top of our head. So waking up our scalp. There's something a sense when we're doing this that we're not trying to kind of do it and like rush past it so we can go to the next thing. We're actually dealing with our physical state, giving it some attention, being aware of your feet on the ground, how it feels for your feet to be touching the ground, the sensations in your feet and sensations in the rest of your body, where you could feel your clothing touching your skin and the air, and being aware of sounds that you can hear, sort of drumming on your own head, but also sounds outside. Just receiving the world of the senses into a kind of soft awareness. We're not trying to disappear from the world and fight it off. We're just trying to have a relationship with it where we're aware of it, but we're also choosing what we pay attention to. Dealing with different aspects of ourselves, maybe. So we're dealing with our body at the moment. Little kind of patting movements on the back of your neck. Just gentle tapping. Tapping on top of your chest, collarbones, around the collarbones. I'm about to do this one. So sometimes the more gentle and subtle movements are more powerful. So we gently when we've been more subtle, we're being more gentle in the way we're coaxing out our energy. Good, then let's do some sort of slow rotations of the arms. Open your chest. And swinging from side to side. And rotating the hips. And then just put your arm over the top, and then little movements stretching up one side and then pushing down on the other side. Backwards and forwards. And other side. Okay, shake everything out. Yeah, that'll do, thanks. So, fine getting into your meditation posture. Okay, so this morning we're going to do the mindfulness of breathing. So just settling into this new position. Balancing your body so that the bones of your body, so that the weight goes down directly into the cushion or chair and ground. So you're not leaning over, and then your muscles can feel confident, they can let go in the knowledge that they'll be supported by the bones of the body. So we're just letting our body just sit there in a natural way. We're not using our will to hold the body up. We're letting the body support us. Letting the structure of the body support us. And this morning I'm not going to lead us through the meditation, I'm just going to ring the bells for 4 stages of a mindfulness of breathing. About 20 minutes, something like that. mindfulness of breathing. So in your own time, just bringing your meditation to a close. Okay, so here we go. There's an attempt at something. I feel a bit groggy this morning, so it's like my brain's not kind of functioning that brilliantly. I was up a bit late watching that film about Alan Turing, the imitation game, you know, where he invents the first computer. So yeah, anyway. So trying to make some sense out of this topic. So basically, I've had an interest in Kondratiev waves for quite a long time, actually. I can't remember exactly when, but I kind of photocopied parts of this book on the long waves, you know, about Kondratiev. Maybe it might be 25 years ago, or 30 years ago, something like that. And I don't know why. I think I just. Well, maybe it's a thought that you know, needing to understand or needing to predict what's going to happen, so that you know what to expect or something like that. Yeah, so Kondratiev was a Russian economist, and he first introduced the concept of long wave theory in his book, 1925 book, The Major Economic Cycles, and then in 1939 another economist called Joseph Schumpeter suggested naming these long waves of economic activity Kondratiev waves in his honour. It says economists estimate that the waves last from between 40 and 60 years, and the first wave started around 1780 or something like that. So it says the first cycle occurred from 1780 to 1830, and was fueled by the invention of the steam engine and the growth of textile manufacturing. So that's something that happened here in Manchester. You know, Manchester was the birthplace, in a way, of the Industrial Revolution, and so textile manufacturing. You know, in fact, the area where the Buddhist centre is in central town is an area where there was lots and lots of textile manufacturing going on. And then the second cycle lasted from 1830 to 1880, and was triggered by the genesis of the steel industry. You know, being able to kind of mass produce steel in a good way, and increasing rail transport supported mass transportation of both people and cargo, which led to rapid economic growth. So again, that's something that Manchester had a big part in. You know, railways. One of the first commercial railways was between Manchester and Liverpool. And then the third cycle lasted, it says, from 1880 to 1930. It is notable for being the first wave to be triggered by the practical application of scientific knowledge. It occurred during the rise of electrical power and was also a time period during which innovations in the chemical industry allowed for the mass production of commodities. And again, Manchester, I think John Dalton was involved in chemical industry, and fourth cycle occurred from 1930 to 1970, fueled by the growth of the petrochemical industry, which also supported the growth of the automobile market. The cycle ended when OPEC, Organisation for Petroleum Exporting Countries, increased the price of crude oil in the 1970s, triggering a recession. The fifth cycle started in the 1970s and was triggered by the advent of computer-based information technology. Guess what? Manchester was involved in that as well. Alan Turing, well, the film, the Imitation Game. So, yeah, he was in Manchester after being in Cambridge, and one of the first computers, was developed at Manchester University. The Industrial Society began transitioning into an information society, which turned the world into a global village. In this cycle, the information technology sector became the main driver of economic growth. This cycle is said to have ended around the start of the 21st century. And then the sixth cycle, many economists believe that we are in a sixth Kondratiev wave that started around 2005. They primarily believe that this cycle will be fueled by advances in healthcare. Economic growth will be triggered by improved productivity in handling healthcare issues. Not quite sure what that means really. So here's a picture of all six cycles, and what you get is you get a period of expansion, a period of boom, a period of recession, and then a period of depression. So how can we sort of draw from this? So what's helpful to draw out of this? So what, from a Buddhist point of view, because I'm a Buddhist and we're talking about Buddhism here. In the Survey of Buddhism, Kondratiev talks about the Buddhist cosmology, and I think Buddhist cosmology comes often. A lot of ideas in Buddhism, they are responses to the previous kind of thought system, which is kind of, in a way, which is like more the kind of Brahminical or Hindu thought system. So some of these ideas of cosmology will have evolved within Brahmanism, and then they get adapted by Buddhists. So there's the idea of, in the Survey of Buddhism, Kondratiev talks about the evolution of cosmology, evolution of the world, and then and then the opposite, which is the involution. So evolution is where things are developing, and involution is where they're turning back inward on themselves. And I can't remember the exact details of it, but in that Buddhist cosmology, you've got the idea of the universe evolving and then devolving in cycles, and it's a spiritual universe. So the description is something like, you get this spiritual evolution. So it's in a way more and more awareness is developing, and like with the wheel of life, so there again you've got a cyclical image. You've got the God, you've got the human realm, you've got the black semicircle and the white semicircle. So it's like beings are, through skillful action, that they're evolving and they're becoming more godlike, able to do more capable, and then the gods then devolve into become, through unskillfulness, become enter into states of suffering like the hell realm. So it's like we can make, when we're making spiritual progress, we're becoming kinder and we're becoming more aware and less self-orientated, and we're sharing, we're teaching the Dharma and all that sort of thing. It's like we're evolving, and but we can always go in two directions. When we start to maybe become a bit complacent and start resting on our laurels and things, then we can fall down, the other side. So, because of the law of impermanence, we're only as good as our kind of last kind of lot of actions. There's no such thing as standing still. When you start to stand still, you start to go backwards. So in Buddhist cosmology, in Survey Buddhism, it talks about beings kind of becoming like beings of light, the God realm, and then what happens is they're in that state, and then it's almost like something small happens, like the gods are in this state of like radiance. It's almost like they're so radiant that it's almost like they live on bliss. They're just happy because they've been being skillful, and they're not needing anything from outside of themselves. And maybe what happens is, at the beginning of the decay of a godlike state, is that they start to become interested in something other than the skillful. So they start to maybe want to try and make what they're doing permanent, and just kind of stop developing, stop sort of keeping making effort, wanting to settle down a little bit, and then they start to notice things outside of their sphere of light radiance, sort of something, some distraction in a way, occurs to them. Oh, look at that. And then they start to become a bit more interested in the material world, or the world of the senses, and once they start doing that, they start to be less skillful, and then they start to fall out of the God realm, and in the Buddhist cosmology, it's said that from being beings of light, what happens is wherever all beings are like beings of light, and then what starts to happen is the material worlds start to condense out of that out of the cosmology, and become more firm, and then those beings all become interested in that, it's like there's the ocean, and there's something about foam on the ocean. They become interested in this foam, and it's all kind of in a way like ignorance starts to come about much more, and or in a way maybe they start to. It was ignorance that started to draw them out of that realm, because they maybe start to think that things that they were permanent, they would last forever, when that's not the case. So out of ignorance comes decay, and in a way like recession, so when we have innovation down at the beginning here, it's like we're putting our energy into it, and then we start to become successful. So this is where the boom bit happens, and then it's almost like that success generates its own problems. So if it's something like kind of say the Kondratiev cycle is about is fueled by the motor car, so the Ford, mass reduction of the Ford motor car, but down here somewhere, and then that allowed for all sorts of things to happen, and then in the end you've got like the world's choking on traffic, it's like you got pollution, and it starts that innovation starts to become a problem, or like maybe like I was saying earlier in the week about the internet, and the big technology companies, and maybe that's starting to become a problem, that it's just dominating us so much, so that where it's something useful at the beginning of the cycle, it starts to become ubiquitous, and in a way starts to create problems, and then you end up with a decay, like recession, and then depression in the end. As the maybe as the lack of ideas, I suppose. We start to rely on things. We rely on, we're all relying on the internet. I mean, what would happen if the big data centers that are all holding all that information, if something happened to them, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be able to know, like, if the cloud disappeared. If everyone's storing everything in the cloud, well, what if all their information, all their financial information, it's all in the a lot of it's in the cloud, and you wouldn't know who owed you money and who didn't. So it's like Anyway, so I think you probably get the idea. So in terms of and maybe the next cycle is will be to do with like clean energy. I mean, I saw the presentation of Tesla. Elon Musk and his Tesla cars and everything, and they're now ridiculously fast and efficient. And like he was unveiling a lorry and some pickup trucks and stuff, and it looks like the future really, and the shares are going up in value and all that sort of thing. So so that ability to combine technology, computer technology with advances in eco technology is probably the future. But we seem to be maybe we are facing a bit more of a depression. So we had the 2008 thing, but I remember a few years after that they were saying that the the Dow Jones index was overvalued, and it's been going up miles more since then. So yeah, it might be that we are headed for some difficult times economically. So I want to just explore a little bit around the Buddhist teaching of conditionality and how that fits in with all of this. And because I think what's important is that as Buddhists we retain a sense of agency. That what it is that we're responsible for or we have control over. So what can happen when you have something like this? When you have some sort of pattern that's there in the universe, which seems to be, if you've got these regular cycles of 40 to 60 years, well, are you just subject to that and there's nothing you can do about it? And so the danger with what we call determinism is where things are just fixed and you can't do it, is that human beings kind of give up, or they just think, oh well, what's the point? It's all predetermined, and so anything that leads to that sense of I suppose this disempowerment or something, it's not. I don't think that is a useful view. So all views need to be evaluated on whether they lead to spiritual growth or not, lead to happiness or not. And so if something seems to lead to was it dull, like resolute, giving up, or just dull resolute, I can't think of the term. Anyway, it's not, it isn't very helpful really. Yeah. So I think, and like say with Marxism comes out of the ideas of the philosopher Hegel. So Hegel had this idea of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So that you had one thing appear, and then its opposite would appear, and then you'd have a third thing would come into being, generated by those two kind of polar opposites. So the idea of socialism, communism, socialism, where it is inevitable. This idea that it's inevitable that there be some progress towards a communist ideal, and it's just a matter of time, because you got these opposing forces, and then there's always something new will come out of that. Well, again, that is a bit deterministic, and I don't think it's. And I think anything that leads to human beings sitting back on the laurels and just kind of being complacent isn't, and not aware really, isn't very helpful. So if you've got this idea that the revolution is inevitable or something like that, then it's almost like you just stop making effort in terms of being aware or being intelligent, I suppose, about what needs to happen. So what am I saying? I mean, when you have a wave, it's like, if you think of a guitar string or something like that, it's like the wave happens because the string is fixed at both ends. So it's like there's a boundary to the string. It's like there's a limitation to the string. It's like it's fixed at both ends. So when you twang it, the wave goes backwards and forwards. So it's like, I think when when we have these anything that's cyclical, it's happening because there's some sort of limitation there. So maybe like with the wheel of life, you've got this. We're going round and round the wheel of life, and we're doing that because there's a limitation there. There's a limitation in terms of our kind of ignorance. So the wheel of life, the outer links of the wheel of life start with ignorance and then karma formation. So it's almost like it's the fact that we are limited in our understanding means that we sort of keep repeating ourselves. Maybe that's the case with these economic cycles. They begin with an innovation, and then that then works to deliver something some technology, and then it has its limitations, and then it all falls apart again. So and then something else is invented that moves into the next phase. So so maybe it's worth considering that if we're in some sort of, I'm spiritualizing the idea now. If we are in some sort of, feel like we're in some sort of loop, like we seem to be going through the same thing again. I still have this same old problem. I've not solved this yet. Well, maybe the thing we need to think about is like that's happening because we're not quite there yet. We don't quite understand enough, about how things are, and when we do, if we can move towards becoming Buddhas, where we do understand very clearly that whatever is there in conditioned existence is impermanent and will come to an end. So all the positive, all the skillful things that we do, to bring happiness about in the world, whatever we create, our mental states or actions in the world, will all be subject to decay. We'll make something and it'll fall apart, or we'll do something for somebody and then that won't be permanent. They'll forget about it, or So we have to keep bringing. So this perpetual self-transcendence is like keeping bringing into the world new things that are going to help sustain it. And they only really do that when like an enlightened person just would really deeply believe that everything falls apart, will keep falling apart. So they have to keep bringing it into being, into existence. So when we're subject to cycles and repetition and that sort of thing, maybe that's how we need to view it. That these cycles are cycles of conditioned existence, of samsara, the elements of samsara, and in a way they're to be accepted and to be worked with as part of the reality that's there in life, and it's only through kind of having that kind of complete non-delusion. So asamoha sampajanya is the level of clear comprehension of sampajanya, or clear comprehension that is on the enlightened level. So we have complete non-delusion. We don't get surprised by anything. We don't get kind of offsided by anything, and we're always going to be able to be above everything that's subject to change and decay and all that sort of thing. So anyway, so I think I've said pretty much everything I want to say. I think so anyway. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye.